All right. Well, joining us now on Zoom is Catherine Perez-Shakdam. She's an expert on Iran, Yemen, and radical movements. She's also the executive director at the We Believe in Israel and Forum for Foreign Relations. All right. So my first question is, how successful was this retaliatory attack on Iran? I mean, when are we really going to know the full extent of the damage, and what are we hearing right now from Iranians on the ground?
Well, the first thing is, I mean, from my perspective, it was very successful. I mean, the simple fact that we managed, that the IDF managed to hit its targets in Iran is a success in and of itself. I mean, I recall not too long ago, Khamenei just being very brave in saying that, Israel would not be able to hit any target, and yet we did. So, clearly we have, I would say, better Air Force than they do. So that's number one. Number two, in terms of the regime trying to admit to any truth, I think it's a tall order. If I'm not mistaken, there's an order that is going around the Islamic Republic of Iran by which people have been warned that should they share any pictures of the hit and the attack, then they would be prosecuted, put in jail, and as we know, usually it means torture, if not death. So clearly, they're trying to hide something. But this is the nature of the regime. They don't want to live with reality. They want to pretend that nothing happened when it does, and they're trying to hide whenever people are indeed dead. So not surprised, but again, that tells you just how much they felt the pain yesterday, and I'm glad. It's been a long time coming, so they deserve it, 100%.
What kind of response can we actually expect from the Islamic Republic of Iran? Of course, there are reports that have come out that there have been basically diplomatic messages sent to the state of Israel from Iran that there is not going to be a planned retaliation. But is there any validity to these reports?
I would say, look, I mean, the last time that someone asked me whether or not the Islamic Republic was going to attack, they did. So I'm just going to withhold on this one. However, I'm going to say this. Khamenei is a coward. The very definition of the regime is relies on the regime cowardice and its ability to send his proxies to do the dirty work. So I would expect that he's going to expect Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis to do what they should be doing in terms of, they're the one calling for the death of Israel, and then they're not willing to actually commit to that. This is the agenda that they set out. I'm not saying that it's a good agenda. It's a ridiculous genocidal agenda. But at the end of the day, they're the one that came up with it. And so you would like to think that they would be the one having at least the bravery to carry that agenda, but they're not. They're not, because they feed on fear. They feed on their ability, again, to command armies, terrorist armies, to do their job, so that they could continue to keep their numbers up, the RSGC being able to colonize the rest of the region. Unfortunately, I would say it may be time for Arab capital to actually rise up against the RSGC, because they're the one being colonized. Israel is perfectly capable of defending itself. It has proven so time and time again, even more so yesterday. So let's just see what happens. But no, I would expect that Khamenei will hide. He will probably give a very fiery speech saying that it's a sign of the victory that is to come around the corner. Only that victory is not coming; it's not around the corner, and they will not win. Everything has its time, and I think it is time for the regime to call it a day, and for the people of Iran to rise up. This is an opportunity. This is a historical opportunity. They've been waiting for it. We have given it to them, even though it wasn't our job to do so, and yet here we are. So rise up. Go get it. Go get your freedom. Demand to be decolonized, because the rest of the world doesn't seem to be interested in decolonizing anything other than apparently Israel, that is, home to the Jews. But this is another topic.
I'm interested to kind of hear your perspective in terms of what Iranians are saying on the ground. Obviously, there were major fears by the Iranian public that Israel was going to be targeting oil infrastructure, for example, further deepening the economic crisis that the country is facing. What we saw was something very different here. The targeted attack of ballistic missile launch sites and also other weapons sites as well. From what we understand, no civilians were killed, if any. So could this mean that we're going to see essentially less support for the Islamic Republic and perhaps more of a show of support for the state of Israel?
Look, I think the show of support for the state of Israel has always been there. Iranians, I mean, yesterday in particular, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, or X, we're pouring messages of support saying, thank you, please do it again and again until Ayatollah Khamenei is gone. I don't think that Iranians need to prove beyond what they have already done, just how supportive they are of the state of Israel and Jews in general, whether they are in Iran or in the diaspora, for that matter. I think that, again, the fact that Israel made a point at minimizing and making sure that there's actually no civilian casualty is a testament to just how hard the IDF works, and how much we play by the rules of international law. The same cannot be said of everybody else, even though we are being bashed on the head for apparently putting people in danger. This is not the case, and you could see in a situation where actually Iranians are not willing to act as meat for the cannons or to play human shield for the RSGC and the regime, just how few casualty you have on the ground. Because obviously, if someone is willing to or forced to act as a human shield, well, yeah, death will ensue. So I would say that Iranians are very supportive. They always have been. For those who still were kind of on the fence in terms of whether or not they had the courage or the willingness to stand against the regime vocally and outwardly, I think that the fear factor has broken. I think that what we need to see, and we have seen over the past few years, are women leading this revolution, this call for the fall of the regime. I think in times for men to actually man up, excuse my French, and join the party. Because, a revolution does not happen on words, or it does not take place on social media. You need to go get freedom. Unfortunately, it's earned, it's very expensive, and it costs dearly. But women have been doing so for over a decade, I would say, argue since 1979, when the mullah showed up. And it's time for Iranians to reclaim their land, reclaim their flag, and reclaim their future, because right now it has been interrupted, it has been stolen, and it shouldn't be that way. The West is not interested in helping, the United Nations either. So go get it.
All right. I'd like to thank you so much for joining us, giving us your perspective.